Grade 10 Chemistry, November 2017, Paper 2, Question 2. And this is a question on bonding. Write down a substance from the list above that is a molecular structure. Now, a molecular structure, another word for molecular structure is a covalent structure that is made up of covalent bonds. And we know that covalent bonds is the sharing of valence electrons between two non-metal atoms. And from the list, the covalent would be carbon dioxide and water, because both of these are made up of non-metal atoms which share their valence electrons during bonding. So molecular and covalent mean the same thing. The next question asks us to find a metallic structure. So metallic bond would be between metals, and that would be Fe, iron. A covalent network structure. Covalent network structure is also called sometimes a giant network structure. So it would be made up of non-metal atoms, many non-metal atoms bonded together. So C90 would be an option. And also something like diamond, that's also a giant or covalent network structure. Even graphite, all of them are made up of multiple carbon atoms. And lastly, an ionic network structure. So ionic would be made up of metal and non-metal that undergo a transfer of electrons during bonding, and that is NaCl. Sodium metal and chlorine non-metal, forming an ionic network structure. They now ask us to draw the lowest dot diagram for the carbon dioxide molecule. So if I draw a lowest structure for carbon, remember for lowest dot diagrams, we draw a dot to represent each valence electron. And the number of valence electrons corresponds to group number. So if we look on the periodic table, carbon is in group 4, so it would have 4 dots, all unpaired. And we reacted with oxygen. Oxygen is in group 6, so that would make 6 valence electrons. So 2 would be paired and 2 unpaired. And we've got another oxygen as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And what would happen now is these 2 electrons would share, and these 2 electrons would share. And then carbon still has 2 unpaired electrons here, and the second oxygen has 2 unpaired electrons. So if we draw this now, we can draw carbon in the center, and we can say that carbon shares 2 with the first oxygen, and it shares 2 electrons with the second oxygen as well. And that is the lowest dot structure for carbon dioxide, a very commonly asked molecule. And because it is sharing 2 pairs, we say that a double bond forms. This is what is known as the Cooper notation. And the first one was the lowest dot notation. They also ask us to draw the lowest dot diagrams for the formation of NaCl. Now what is important here is if we look at NaCl, we know that sodium Na is a metal and chlorine is a non-metal. So that means we are going to be dealing with ionic bonding, the bonding between a metal and a non-metal. So I would draw for sodium. Sodium is in group 1, so it has 1 dot. Plus I've got chlorine in group 7, so 7 dots. And we can see now that chlorine has 1 unpaired electron. What would happen now? There would be a transfer of that electron from sodium to chlorine, because metals, they lose electrons easily. We know that metals easily form positive ions. So sodium would lose that electron, and because it loses an electron, it becomes Na+. And chlorine would pick up that electron. So chlorine had 7, and I'm using a cross to represent the electron that it took from sodium. So let's change this to a cross as well. And because it took an electron, we would put them in square brackets, and it becomes negatively charged because it has an extra electron. And that is how you would show the formation of NaCl. So you would get a mark for each of your atoms. Study the models of compounds A, B, and C below and answer the questions that follow. Give the chemical name for compound A. If we look at compound A, we can see it consists of potassium, K, and iodine I. So potassium and iodine would form Ki. And to name that, it is potassium iodide, because the name would end in "ide." The chemical formula of B, so B is, there's a carbon and there are 4 hydrogens, CH4, and this is a common gas, one of the common names, methane. And lastly, the common name of compound C. So compound C is NH3, and we know that this is ammonia. And that is how you would answer a question like this. I hope you found this video useful. Please like if you did, subscribe so that you don't miss future videos, and share this video so that more people can benefit from these lessons.